What up, Sugar with Tom? Peace to all of y'all homies and homettes out there. Just want to go on live and chop it up. Anyway, so I do not watch Power, Snowfall, or Empire. And I also want to add, I did not watch Breaking Bad. And I don't watch Narcos either. All right, so I don't watch. Okay, now I don't watch these programs for a few reasons. The main reason is they promote a very dangerous lifestyle, and I've had people who I knew personally, their life has been expired by this lifestyle. And when I was younger, right before I was getting out of high school, probably in the 10th grade, I knew some cats personally, and I kind of knew the way that they were going in life. And basically, we get into fights, you know how kids do. And the last fight we got into, basically they locked me in a room where, I came in a room because we were roommates, and I was real tired because I just went to a track meet and ran as hard as I could. I won my race though, but I was so exhausted when I got home. They started a fight with me, and I didn't have the energy to fight. And one locked me in a room, and the other one basically jumped on me. So all I could do is defend, and I had to use the last bit of energy I had to. I was just gonna try to murder this dude, man. I was going to try to put him through a wall. Anyway, so after that, I was no longer friends with this dude. And nonetheless, I saw the way that they were going. I saw the things that they talked about, and I was like, I'm not interested in any of that. Long story short, some 10 years later, the same dude knew my brother. He saw my brother in jail, and he was like, yeah, give him my address, tell him to write me, in jail. So he wrote me a letter, and I read the letter, and he apologized about what he did, on that day. He still remembered it. I just looked at the letter, and I, was just like, whatever. Also in the letter, he was talking about how he had, a nice, car and fancy car, and how women were after him because of his car. Well, you know what he did to get that car. Wrote me a letter. He said, why aren't you writing me back, so on and so forth. My brother said, yo, he's like a real big dude now, muscular and all this, but he was also big in other things too. And basically, I never wrote him back, and I don't regret not writing him back because, I had nothing to say to you after what you did. But as soon as he got out of that jail, soon as he got out, he jumped in that fancy car that he loved so much. The boys from the hood caught up to him, and they lit him up right in that same car. I was never a fan of that lifestyle, and I don't watch these shows because I've seen what they've done to men, women, and children in our hoods. And I mean, when you look at Narcos and Breaking Bad, those are two shows. Well, Narcos is different because it's actually live, saying what's actually going on now, and somebody actually died filming it. And Breaking Bad is basically another illustration of what's happening, but it's in the white neighborhood. So I don't, I ain't got nothing against 50 Cent and, anybody else who promotes these shows. That's what you do. That's a lifestyle you came up in. A lot of you guys are rich because of it. But it was never for me, And at one time I was going to do that because, well, I wasn't going to do that, but I was going to get in somewhere on the bottom floor where I could just, make a couple dollars. But, it just wasn't in my calling. And the people who were talking to me about it, they were instantly removed from my life. I never saw them again. And one guy I worked with, And but the Lord heard the plans that we were making, and He was just like, nope. And He removed that person. I never saw that individual again. When I say never, I mean that dude never came back to work. I never seen his car in the hood. He never called me. No, nothing. The Lord completely removed him because He's like, no, you're going the wrong way. And I was, but I wanted money, you know. And I've been poor all my life. I have been. I've been poor all my life. So yeah, so I was struggling. That's when I lived in Akron, making $5.50 an hour. I thought that was something, but you're still poor back then when $5.50 was. I mean, $5.50, $6 an hour back then. You were like, okay, it's a little something, but it was still. You're still struggling. And then eventually I moved here, where I was trying to get into the state where they were paying like $8, $9 an hour. And that was a lot better. You could feed a family off of $9 an hour then. But nothing ever worked out for me. And now I'm finished with working for other people. But yeah, I don't watch these shows because of how they have torn to pieces the neighborhoods that we live in. They have ripped the hoods apart, and these people who, there's so many innocent lives that were destroyed because of movies like this, because of TV shows like this. And I'm just not going to sit there and watch how you people made money. And there are so many people who are in the grave who had nothing to do with anything. Just recently, a 7-year-old girl got blown up. They shot her up. They shot this girl up, over some goofy stuff in the hood. This little girl didn't do anything to anybody. And this is often the case. And this is why I just can't sit and stomach, movies like that and shows like that. And then like, no, I'm not gonna watch it, And another thing is these shows, they promote it, brag about it, and people in the hood promote and brag about this is what they do. And listen, when I was living in Akron, Akron is a small city, all right, and you had more dealers. And look, I've never seen so many in my life. They would all go to the same parties. They would all like hang around the same people, and you knew who they were. You saw their cars. They had their cars all fancied up. They was wearing cross colors back then. They had big old pagers on. You knew who all of them were. They had the fanciest cars on the block. It was ridiculous. They were out there, doing a lot of crazy stuff. Well, one day the feds just decided to clean all those guys up. And within like a day, you stopped seeing all those people. They were all gone. I never saw those people again. I'm just like, okay, this is too cray-cray. Let me get the hell on out of here. And I left Akron because there was just way too much going on, and I wanted to do something more. All right. So, yeah, so that's the reason why I do not watch those shows. Everybody's got their own opinion, but I've just seen a couple people that I know of personally lose their life because of that lifestyle. It's nothing to brag about. And I never understood, why would you be this type of person who lives this type of lifestyle and then brag about it so other people can come see you? It's just like, no. You can't do that because they're going to come see you. They're going to try to take what you have. And that's what happened to two people that I knew. Both of them got pretty much, both of their lives ended young and unexpectedly because that's what they did. And they weren't very shy about what they did. They drove very colorful vehicles, and they made sure people knew what they did. And it was obvious, especially back then, because now you can find a decent job and you can drive yourself a nice Mercedes now. You really can. You can go and work for the state, city, county. There's more entrepreneurs now than there's ever been. You know, it's just, you can buy a $37,000 vehicle right now and be able to afford it if if you got your act together. You know, you can. It's a, $500 a month payment, but that's on you. But it's very possible for you to, drive a nice vehicle right now and keep up with it. It just is. Things are just more affordable. Back then, though, especially if you had yourself a big body Benz, everybody knew kind of you were, especially if you were young, they knew that you were the local, man. And what would happen in most cases is these guys, one guy, his name, I'll just call him Green. I'll call him Green. But he was named after a color. But nonetheless, he drove the biggest, audacious truck you've seen, and he painted it the color of his name. And so there's nobody else on the block, and this was in Pittsburgh, who had a name, and then he would, of course, beat down the block, boom, 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 boom. And everybody knew what he did, and they were just like, why? If it was me, you wouldn't even know that I did that. I would have had me a little Acura, and I would have been just as quiet. Not have been good. You would not have known that it was me doing that. So, yeah, so this is one of the reasons why I don't watch these. A guy who I ran track with in high school, same thing happened to him. That guy could have went somewhere. He ended up being a very super fast guy. Like, he had some talent to him. Once he hit 12th grade, he was one of the fastest guys in the state. He was just quick. And his cousin was famous for his speed. He was the fastest man in the state in 3 events. There was nobody in the state of Pennsylvania who could have outrun this cat. Nobody. He'd go to the pin relays or any of those events, and he would win. And that was just that. That was just that. And it was all really a matter of how fast did he choose to run. It was amazing. But his cousin went to school with me, and, I raced both of those guys. They both beat me. The one I beat at first, and the second one he beat me when he got older. He just took off one day and beat me. And I never beat him again. But, yeah, he lost his life doing that too. So, it's just something I decided that I can't see myself getting into. So I don't watch these shows. Now, I know there are a lot of musicians on these shows. I think that's the one good thing about some of these shows. But another thing is they promote sex, they promote violence, they promote backstabbing each other. It's just, there's nothing good comes out of these shows. There just isn't. I don't care all the singing you want to do. The shows are about manipulating each other, backstabbing each other, killing each other, doing, being deceitful, doing each other's women, and I'm not watching that. That stuff. Those shows are toxic. And those shows are the most toxic shows you could ever watch. And the thing about them is the people in those shows look like you and me. Like, you can walk right out on the street and see people just like them. It's not like it's a fantasy show like Game of Thrones or something. Yeah, it was conniving, backbiting, and lustful and all this other stuff. But who's walking around with Game of Thrones outfits on? They don't look like us. People in these other shows, they look just like us. You walk outside, that's those people. And I don't want that in my head, because anything you watch has a spirit attached to it. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you're watching golfing, next thing you know, you think you want to golf. If you're watching boxing, now you want to go to the gym and box. If you're watching people screw, now you want to go and screw. That's because it's a spirit. There's a spirit behind everything. And there's some spirits, you just don't let them in your house. Don't let them gas you up to think that you're something that you're not, because you'll go out there and get missing real quick. That lifestyle is nothing at all to play with. There is nothing comfortable about it. I've talked to some people. I talked to one guy. Well, I've talked to a few people who were looking at some very long sentences, and they'll tell you. Look, one guy said, "Listen, the police come and pick me up just when they're bored. They watch my house all the time, and they come pick me up and put me in jail just for nothing. It's because he had a rap sheet of doing stuff. You know what I mean? So he doesn't even complain. They just pull up to his house, get it, and hit it. You know what I'm saying? And he's going back to jail. He's got to bail himself. I mean, it's just that. And I was working with this guy making $8 an hour. I was like, "Why are you here?" He was like, "Shoot, I gotta hold these type of jobs down now." So I don't promote any of that type of violence, that type of mind manipulation, that type of lifestyle. It's very dangerous. And oftentimes I can see, like, being that I grew up around these people, a lot of times I could see, uh, I'll just say yes, you could see stuff about to happen. And when you see it, people are like, don't, like, what are you afraid of? Why are you scared? And I tell them, look, I say, I'm not afraid. I'm aware. I'm aware what is going to happen right about now if, I don't leave. And they're not going to be aiming at me, but nonetheless, I know these people. I know what they do. I had a friend who had a studio, on the avenue, not far from here. And he had, it was in a garage, and it was in one of the worst spots in town. And he had built this really nice studio in the garage. And I told him, I said, "You're about to get robbed." And he was like, "Nah, man, I got a gun over here. I got a gun over here. I got this over here, that over there." I said, "Dude, you're going to get robbed." He said, "Yo, dude, why you acting like you scared?" I said, "I'm not afraid. I'm aware. You're not going to be sitting here with all this equipment and music playing real loud, and these hood cats just going to ignore you." No, they don't care about your weapons. They're going to come and take what you had. And what happened? He got robbed for everything he had. All that money he put into that studio, and he had a really nice computer, really nice speakers, everything. They took the whole studio. Okay, so it's like, just because somebody doesn't get into that lifestyle doesn't mean that they're soft. It's just, we're not interested, because we've seen the bodies. We've seen them drop like flies. We know people who are no longer here, and they didn't even reach the age of 30. I mean, imagine that. Like, I'm 53, and I'm glad to be 53. I count my blessings every morning. I thank the Lord every morning, because just one zig instead of zag, next thing you know, you're going down a wrong road. So I do not watch those shows. I don't allow them in my house. I'm not interested in none of that. I just don't do it. I don't listen to that type of music either, although I do like the rhythms to it. But a lot of stuff they're talking about is, eventually you got to be like, I can't listen to you, Future. Love your beats, but Molly Percocet? Nah, I know what you're talking about, bro. We not doing that over here. We not doing that over here. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to, start a conversation about that. I see nobody's really saying anything, even though I appreciate you guys for stopping by. I'm probably going to go live again just to make music because I'm bored. But yeah, I don't watch any of these shows. I think they're very toxic. And Narcos is different. Like I said, Narcos is a show that educates you about what's going on. It's like a documentary. So that's different. If you want to know what's going on with, people who are doing this type of business, that's a good show to look into. Now, one show I did watch, The Wire. And I'm going to tell you why I watched The Wire. I watched The Wire because I thought it was a documentary. I thought it was real until I recognized one of the actors. I'm like, this is just a show? And everybody got fooled on The Wire because it was so graphic and so matter of fact that they were like, no, we have to get rid of the show. So this is why you don't see a Wire 2, because it was very, very honest. And it was very a matter of fact. It was telling what was really, like what was really happening. And that's different to me. Watching that, it was educating you on what's going on in that city and in that part of town. And so I understood that. Like documentaries, I can watch. I understand that. But just shows to be glorifying, that type of lifestyle, I'm not watching that. I'm not going to watch these people screwing each other's girlfriends and these, trashy women doing that. There's enough trash in my head. I don't need any more trash in my head. And so it's just not for me, you guys. Anyways, your boy Tom 202. Thank you for stopping by. Peace.